All right, welcome to the Excel Lesson 2 for Module 2. This lesson is formatting a worksheet. And so in this lesson, we are going to, once again, be working with the JCL Talent Company. And what we're going to be doing with this one, we're going to be formatting some values. We are going to be changing font size, so formatting text. We will also be changing some styles, changing some alignment. We'll be doing some adjusting of the column widths and row heights. We're also going to be doing some applying borders, adding some documentation. We're going to do spell checks, and we'll also be applying what's called conditional formatting. All right, so we're going to open up this file that I've included for you called EX2-1, and we're going to go ahead and do a file save as right away. And we're going to go ahead and save this one to the wherever you've been saving those. Typically it's in Intro to Office folder, and we're going to call this one 2-Tech. So I'm just going to do file save as 2-Tech. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to select the range G3 through G15. Again, that's going to be under the expense category, G3 through G15, and these are dollar values. And we're going to go ahead and apply the accounting number format for this. So again, here's our expenses, and up in our home tab, number group, we're going to click on this little dollar sign to apply the accounting style formatting. We're now going to select the range H3 through H15. And for this one, we're going to apply the comma style. And again, it's going to be in your number group on your home tab. It's got the big comma. We're just going to click on that. And you'll notice that the comma style and the accounting style are identical styles, other than the fact that the accounting style has a dollar sign. Now, the number format and the currency format are also identical, other than the dollar sign. And so we'll get to that in a moment. All right, we're going to click on cell M1, where we have the revenue rate. On this one, we're going to click on the format percent. So percent style in the number group again. We're going to click on that, and it's going to change the decimal 0.2 to 20%. And here we're going to increase the decimal button one time. So right over here, where it says decrease and increase decimal, we're going to increase the decimal once. Now we're going to select the range C3 through C15. So C3 through C15, and this is the dates. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply a date style. So we're going to come to our number group launcher right down here. We're going to go to the date category, and we are going to scroll down until we get to the 14-MAR and click on OK, and that will change the formatting for that date. All right, so again, right now we're just applying different number styles and formatting these values. The next step we're going to do is we are going to select the range I3 through J15. So the net revenue and the commission. And for this one, we are going to click on the currency style. So right where it says general, I'm going to click on that little down pointing arrow, change this to currency. And then here you'll notice that we've got the dollar sign with the 2 decimals. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I am going to expand column G so you can see the difference here. So when we apply the currency style, we have what's called a floating dollar sign. And the floating dollar sign means that the dollar sign will stay attached to the value. And so when we have a value like 17,000, the dollar sign is going to be to the immediate left of the 1 for 17,000. If we had $7, the dollar sign would be way over here, and it would be attached to the 7. when we apply the accounting formatting, you'll notice that the numbers all align to the right, but the dollar sign stays at the left. And this is called a static dollar sign. So this is static. It's affixed to one spot. This one is floating because it will float depending on what the value, that number value is. All right. So again, a floating dollar sign, a fixed or static dollar sign are the difference between those two. And then the final thing we're going to do for our formatting on this part of the document is we are going to select the range G3 through I15. And you'll notice that all of these values are even dollars. These ones over here, the commission, are not whole numbers. So these are all even dollars or whole numbers. And we're just going to decrease the decimal by 2. So again, up in our number group on our home tab, we're just going to come up here and click the decrease decimal 1, 2 times, and it's going to apply that way. All right. So let's go ahead and click on that little quick save to save our work. And then the one thing that you'll notice that when we selected this range, the one thing that it did do is when we decreased that decimal, it applied the leftmost number formatting to all of them. So we selected them all together, decreased the decimal, and when we did that, it changed it to a custom formatting, and that custom formatting just happens to be to mirror the format that is on the leftmost column, which is the accounting style. So there's nothing wrong with that. We can keep it as it is. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the font. So we're going to go to, I'm going to deselect those for a moment. And if we look through here, we've got several different kinds of fonts. And I'm going to come up here to the top. And this is a select all function. So you can do a Control A, or you can come up here to the top and click at the intersection of the A and 1. Click right there and it will select your entire sheet. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the font from Times New Roman to Calibri. And you can start to type Calibri, and then you'll notice it will automatically change. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to select cell A1, and I'm going to increase the font size to 20. Now you can either click where this says 11, this font size indicator, and just scroll down to 11, or you can use your increase font or grow font and click that a couple times until you get up to 20. But either way will do the same thing. So again, we're increasing the font size to 20. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the style of this. So we're going to come over to our Home tab Styles group, and I'm going to click on this More option, that little down pointing arrow, and I'm going to apply a Heading 1 style. And then you notice with the Heading 1 style, it's going to change it to that kind of slate blue and give it an underline in that cell and also some bolden text. And then I'm going to select my range A1, so click and hold in A1, drag through J2 and deselect. And what I'm going to do here is merge and center those cells. And so now you can see when I click up here, I'm only in cell A1. I've merged all of those cells together. So I merged the cells and centered that text on that cell. Now let's go ahead and select A2 through J2. And here we're going to apply the Heading 2 style. So again, we're going to go to that styles group with the More option and choose the Heading 2 style. All right, now I'm going to click on cell L1, where we have that revenue rate. And then I'm going to hold my Shift key and select L2. And again, that's just selecting an adjacent range. I could do the same thing here. If I clicked on D4, hold Shift, D14, it's going to select that whole range. Again, the other way you can do it is click and hold, drag. Everything's the same. And then with those two, we're going to apply the heading 4 style. All right, so let's go ahead and do a little quick save on our work so far. So we've got the numbers formatted. We've got that date formatted. We've done some formatting to our headings, our title, the sheet title, as well as our column headings. Now we're going to work with some fonts and do some alignments with the cells. So we're going to select the range A3 through A15, that reference column. We're going to apply the bold formatting. So right up in our Home tab font group, we're going to click on bold. Then we can click on italics. Now when we click on italics, you'll notice that it automatically changes that to italics. If we click on italics again, it will deselect that or unitalicize it. So we just want it bold. We don't want to apply both of them. But you'll notice that if you want to undo something, you'll just do the exact same action. So we're just going to keep that bold for now. But we are also going to center those numbers in this cell. So we're going to come right up here to our alignment group in our Home tab, and I'm going to click on the center align, and it will center those buttons, or center those numbers. Now once I've got these applied, the formatting applied here, I want to do the same thing here. But instead of selecting the range B3 through B15, doing bold, and then centering it, while I have this selected, I'm just going to click on Format Painter one time, click and hold in B3, drag through B15 and release, and it applies that same formatting as it is in the column A. All right, and then since we only clicked on the Format Painter one time, it's good for one use, and now it's done. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to do another quick save up here to save our work so far. Now we're going to do some work with our column widths. So we're going to fix some of these widths so you can see that we've got this position is all kind of smushed together. The location is all smushed together. And some of our, if you are doing something and you had, like, say, these pound signs in here, the pound signs would indicate that you have a value. However, the value of the cell is wider than the cell width. So we'd have to fix that. So we're going to do this a couple different ways. We're going to come between column C and D in the heading way up here. And when we come up there and navigate to that column divider, you'll see that my selection pointer turns into this two-way pointing arrow, left and right, or east and west. If I move it a little bit, it disappears. But if I get it right between those two, you can see that it turns into that east and west pointing arrow. I'm going to click and hold right there, and it's going to tell me how wide that cell is right now. So right now that column is 9.17 points, or 73 pixels. I'm going to go ahead and drag it to the right a little bit until I get to 12.71 and then release. All right. Now I'm going to do the same thing with D and E. I'm going to select D and E together, both of them together. So click and hold on the D column heading, drag through E. And for these two, I am going to double click. And you can either double click the divider between E and F or D and E. Since I did both of them together, I just did D and E. But I'm going to undo that for a second so you can see it again. And again, I went to D and E. And since I selected both of them together, I'm just going to double click, and it does the auto fit for both of those columns at the same time. All right, now I'm going to select F, G, and H, hold my control key down, and select column L. All right, and so what that does is it selects columns that are non-adjacent, or they're not right next to each other. And again, I'm going to deselect it. I'm going to click and hold on the column heading for F, drag through to H, and then release. Hold my control key, and then just click on L. And again, this will select all of those at the same time, but the control option selects non-adjacent ranges. Now that I've got that selected, I'm going to come up to my Home tab, Cell Group, and I'm going to choose this formatting option, so the down pointing arrow by format, and I'm going to choose Auto Fit Column Width. And when I do that, again, it's kind of like we did between D and E, it's going to automatically fit the column width to the text within it. All right. And then finally, I am going to go to column M and format. And so you can see what right now, this one, go format, and I'm just going to click on the column width option. And you can see right now it's 8.43. I'm just going to change this to 7 and then OK. So there's 3 different ways we can do that. We can come between the margin, double click. We can click and hold and drag out or in, regardless of which way you want to go. We can go to our format, auto fit the columns that way, or we can choose a specific size this way. Lots of different ways to do it. All right. So then let's do columns I and J together. Format, column width, and we'll change these to 14, enter, and it will expand those as well. All right. So now we're going to go ahead, we are going to insert and delete columns and rows. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to cell F2. So we're going to come up to cell F2, right over here, the type. We're going to right click on cell F2. And then we're going to click Insert. And so you'll see when we do that, we're inserting a cell right there. But when we do it that way, it pushes everything else down. So I'm going to undo that. And then we're going to do another thing. Instead of clicking on the Insert button, we're going to click on the down pointing arrow by Insert. And now we can choose, okay, here's where I want to go ahead and insert an entire row. So I'm going to go ahead to where it says Insert Sheet Rows, Insert Sheet Columns. I'm going to say Insert a Sheet Row. And it will pop in a row right up there. All right. Now we're going to go ahead, and if you look at this, we've got this little format painter brush right underneath it. If I click on that, you can see it asks us how we want to format it. So it says you can format the same as above, which would be this heading 1 style. We can format the same as below, which would be this heading 2 style, or we can remove all of the formatting. All right, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to deselect that. To get out of it. All right, now we're going to click on the row 9 heading. So we're just going to come over here to this margin, click on row 9. And then we're going to come up to our cell group, and we're just going to click on delete. And when we do that, it's going to delete that entire row. All right. Now we're going to come up to the column K heading right up here. And this way we're going to delete that little hit the down pointing arrow, and we're going to say delete sheet column to delete that column. All right, so let's go ahead and save our progress so far. Now we can do some fun stuff with applying some colors and borders to the documentation stuff. So we're going to come up, we're going to select the range. I'm going to deselect that for a moment. A4 through A15. We're going to click on our little fill arrow, so it's going to be in our font group, little paint can. We're going to click on that little down pointing arrow, and we're going to choose the fill blue-gray text 2 lighter 80%. So blue-gray text 2 lighter 80%. And then we're going to come over to the immediate left where our borders are, and I'm going to click on that little down pointing arrow by borders. And we are going to choose the right border option. And that's going to put a border. If I deselect this for a second, you can see it put a little border right around that one. All right, and then with that range still selected, I'm going to go ahead and change the font color to blue-gray text 2. So where this little font color option is, I'm going to change it to blue-gray text 2. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that save option to save our progress. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my Insert tab. And then in my text option right over here, I'm going to click on the header and footer. Now this way it's going to open up the header and footer. So you can see right now I'm in my header. If I click this one in the navigation, I'll go down to my footer. And when I'm in my footer, I can click on go to header, and it'll go to header. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to enter the sheet name in one of these tabs. So with our insertion point in that center, we're going to come to this header and footer elements, and we are going to click on sheet name. Now when it comes in, it looks like an and, like an ampersand, and then the word tab in brackets, straight brackets. And that's fine. When we get out of it, it will show it what it is. So now let's click on go to footer. It's going to go down to the bottom of the page. We're going to go to that center footer section. We're going to type our name. All right. And then we're going to click down here where it says normal. We're going to click, oopsie, let me click out of that one, and then let's go to normal. And now we can go back to our document. Now I'm going to click on the File tab and look at my print preview. So click on print, and you'll see that right now we've got 2 pages. We've got this annual rate, or revenue rate and commission rate are all by themselves. And then the rest of it is in over here. So, but I don't want to print it because we're going to change this to 1 page in just a little bit. But so now we know that there's a little issue if we try to print this. So while I'm up here, I'm going to click on column or cell L1, Format Painter, and then click in L3 to apply that same formatting to that other column as well. All right, so now we're going to apply some conditional formatting. And this is the fun stuff. So we're going to select the column column I. So I4 through I15. And here we're going to apply what are called data bars. And so we're going to come up to our Home tab Styles group, and we've got a conditional formatting option right here. I'm going to click on that little down pointing arrow by conditional formatting. Then you can see we've got highlight rules, top and bottom rules, but we also have a data bar option. So I'm going to hover over data bar, and you'll see we've got gradient fill options and solid fill options. And if you hover over these different ones, it's going to give you a little preview of what it will look like. And you can go ahead and change whatever you want to do. I'm going to choose the gradient fill blue data bar. All right, so when I do that, you'll notice that the larger the number, the greater the number, the longer that bar is. And the shorter the number, the shorter the bar, or the least the number, the shorter the bar is. And so this is just a good way that you can get a quick visual representation of where the revenue is coming. So we can see this row 4, 5, 6, and 13 all have these long bars. Then we've got the row 11, I believe it is right here. That's, between the other ones. But then these other ones are a little bit shorter. And so we can see which position is where the revenue comes in. All right, now let's go ahead and go to our expense category. So we're going to select G4 through G15. And this time, we are going to go to at the bottom where it says Quick Analysis Tool. Now, if you're running an older version of this or the Mac version, you do not have access to the Quick Analysis Tool. You can just go to conditional formatting and do it that way. But if you have the newer version, you've got the Quick Analysis Tool. I'm just going to click on that, and then you'll notice that I've got formatting option right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose the greater than option. And then instead of having 465, it's going to give us like a default average. I'm going to type 500. Oopsie, not 6,000, 500. And then I am going to do light red fill. So I don't want light red fill with dark red text. I'm going to click right over here and choose just the light red fill option. And then OK. And then you'll notice that now it's showing us everything that's over 500 for an expense is highlighted in red. And so now you'll notice that if one of these values changes, so let's say we selected G4, right up here where it's 675. If I change that value to 499 and then enter, now you'll notice that since it's fallen below that range, it eliminates that formatting. All right, so I'm going to do a Control Home to go to the top or to go back up to cell A1. And then I'm going to go ahead and save my work. And now we're going to rename, whoopsie, don't do that. Just save it. And now we're going to rename and move some worksheets around. So you can see right here we've got 3 different sheet tabs. I'm in sheet tab 1. If I click on sheet 2, I've got some other information over here. And if I click on sheet 3, there's nothing over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click sheet 2. And when I do that, you can see it highlights the words sheet 2. I'm going to type the word commission and then enter. And it changes the sheet 2 tab to the commission tab. Now I'm going to right click and change the tab color. So if I hover over tab color and I can choose these different options here, I'm going to go ahead and again, you can choose whatever you want. I'm going to choose blue accent 5, darker 25%. Then I'm going to double click sheet 1 and it's going to select that sheet 1 text. And I can either type over the name, rename this. We're going to rename this one Boston Tech. Otherwise, I can do a click on it one time with my right mouse button, come on. There we go. Right mouse button click and then rename, and it will do the same thing. So either double click on it or right click and rename. And again, we're changing this to Boston Tech, and then enter. And then I'm going to right click on that one, and I'm going to change this tab color to gray or blue gray, text 2, darker 25%. All right. Now I'm going to hover over that Boston Tech sheet, left click and hold it, and then drag it over between Commission and Sheet 3 and Release. And then now you'll notice that I've reordered them. So now Commission is the first tab and Boston Tech is the second one. And then I can come over, since Sheet 3 is blank, I can right click on the Sheet 3 tab and then delete that sheet. All right. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a spell check on this. So I'm going to go Control Home to go up to the beginning of my document. And then I'm going to come up to my Review tab and then Spelling. And so now I'll see that, okay, Commission is not in the dictionary, so it's suggesting maybe you want commission or commissions. I'm going to click on Commission and say Change. And then we've got Help Desk Support, and it's telling us support is not in the dictionary. We either want sport or support. I want support. I'm going to change that one. And now it says, hey, you're all good to go. I'm going to click OK. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Home tab, and I'm going to find and replace a word. So in my editing group over here, in my Home tab, I've got to find and select. I'm going to click on this option, and then it's going to ask me what I want to do. I'm going to say I want to replace a word. And again, we don't want to have more than one cell selected, otherwise it's only going to look in a range. So we have to make sure that we just have one thing selected. But we're going to say find what? What do we want to find? We're going to find the word contract. And then I'm going to hit my tab key, and it says, what do you want to replace it with? And I'm going to say temp, T-E-M-P. And then I'm going to click replace all. And so you can see for us, it made 6 replacements. And then I'm going to say, okay. Now, if yours said none, you'd have to make sure that you didn't have more than one cell, because if we had more than one cell selected, it would look in that range. So if we said replace, oopsie, comma, we'll change this to temp, and then replace with contract, and say replace all, it says we couldn't find anything. And that's because, again, we're selecting a range, so the program doesn't know that we don't want to select just this range, we want to select the whole worksheet. So again, if you only have one cell selected, it will look for that word in the whole sheet, but if you have multiple cells selected, it will only look in that specific range. All right. And now the last thing I'm going to do is we are going to do some customized scaling. So since when we printed this, again, let's do that again, File, Print. When we printed that, you can see it's going to print onto 2 pages. And we only wanted to print it to 1 page. So right over here, we can choose to scale back our sheet a little bit to allow it to print onto 1 sheet. So I'm going to come where it says Custom Scaling, click on that little down pointing arrow, and I'm going to choose the option to fit the sheet on 1 page, and then you'll see that it keeps everything the same size, but it just scales it down a little bit so everything will fit onto 1 page. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit that back arrow because I don't want to print it. And then that is that project. So I'm just going to come back up to Control Home to go to my home space and then click on my save again to save that progress. And this project has been completed.